Shall we start?
Oh, me too. Believe me, I'm so excited as well.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our most humble presentation. My name is Anya Ali Ismail, and I'm from 11th grade.
And I'm Yara Twana, and I'm from 10th grade.
And today, we're going to be talking about happiness amongst our youth. So starting, what is happiness? Why are our youth so unhappy nowadays, and what can we do to promote happiness amongst our youth? So many questions, so much to uncover. And lucky for all of you, we've got the answers. So starting, what is happiness? There are many different definitions of what happiness is, but according to Wikipedia, happiness is a positive and pleasant emotion ranging from contentment to intense joy. Moments of happiness may be triggered by positive life experiences and thoughts. Yet, according to major religions such as Islam, being kind, being grateful and faithful to the teachings of the Quran and the Sunnah of our Prophet ﷺ leads to true happiness. Yet, according to famous philosophers such as Aristotle, happiness consists of health, wealth, knowledge, and friends. So it's obvious that there's somewhat of a debate around this definition. So we did a simple survey of over 150 students and teachers from our school and asked them what happiness is to them. And as you can see, we got very diverse answers. Therefore, we asked them to rate their happiness from a scale of 1 to 10 according to their own definitions. And the average answer was 6.85. Now, we have data, but still not a clear answer, so we turned to Google for help. And although there are many studies surrounding the factors that affect our happiness, one study caught my attention. It was conducted by Harry Maguire, and it stated that there are 10 main factors that affect our happiness. But we're going to simplify it today into 2 main factors, internal factors and external factors. Starting with the internal factors and the very science of our being, let's start to Ms. Yara.
Back to your question, scientifically, what is happiness? So there are 4 main happy hormones. We've got dopamine, serotonin, endorphins, and oxytocin. But we're going to focus on dopamine and serotonin. And although they have many differences, I'll conclude all in saying that dopamine is reward and pleasure, serotonin is happiness and contentment.
Thank you, Ms. Yara. Now that we know the science behind it, let's tackle yet another issue. It's no mystery that the rates of depression have increased drastically amongst our generation. So why is that?
Well, according to Harvard Health Education, it is believed that the lack of serotonin leads to depression. And it seems as though you have linked happiness to a temporary release of dopamine, as opposed to generations before us who linked it to long-term consequences. Now, if I were to ask you what's true happiness, you might say family and health, which is long-term happiness, therefore linked with serotonin. But if I were to ask the same question to my friends, they might say getting good grades, the new iPhone 15 Pro. Anya, my birthday's coming up soon. I'm expecting an iPhone 15 Pro.
Sure, Yara, sure.
Which is just a burst of temporary happiness, aka dopamine. Now you may be wondering, how can you promote the release of serotonin? Healthline.com suggests many ways in which you can do that, but it all starts by taking positive action. because if I were to tell you, don't think about anything for 5 minutes, that would be impossible. But if I were to tell you, please raise your hand like this for 5 minutes, I think we'd all be able to achieve this. So it's really difficult to control our thoughts, and we have a better chance in controlling our actions. Therefore, positive action results in your well-being, and your well-being leads to happiness. But this might raise a question. Although health is a huge factor when it comes to happiness, why are there so many healthy yet unhappy people amongst our youth? One might even argue that we're the most comfortable lifestyles compared to the generation before us, and they'd be correct. We've never lived through wars and mass genocide. We don't have to walk over mountains and cross rivers just to get to school. And although these issues undoubtedly made across the globe, they're considerably less. So why are we more depressed, Anya?
Well, let's see if history can aid us. In 1962, a scientist known as John Calhoun performed an experiment on a bunch of rats. He put 4 rats in a rat utopia and gave them unlimited food, water, and shelter to see how they would behave. And at first, the rats were thriving. Their population increased drastically. But then, things started to get weird. Few of the female rats were able to give birth, while the male rats became extremely violent and developed really abnormal behaviors. The rats became depressed and developed social anxiety and weren't able to communicate with one another properly, to the point where their population went from thousands to only 122. This phenomenon was known as behavioral sink, which basically meant the rats started to create their own problems due to the lack of real problems. Does that sound familiar to any of you?
So the rats were comfortable and upset? How big of an impact do external events have on overall happiness of somebody?
Great question, which leads us to our second factor, the external factors. And what is one of the main external factors that affect our youth's happiness nowadays? The educational system. Now, you may be wondering, what does education have anything to do with happiness? Well, let's find out, shall we? According to Forbes.com, the more knowledgeable a person is, the happier they are. And our youth are arguably much more knowledgeable than the generations before us were when they were our age. Yet, why are they more unhappy? Is it the things we're teaching them? Is it the way we're teaching them? Or is it possibly both? Our youth nowadays lack the skills needed to navigate the 21st century skill properly. And while doing some research, I came across a rather interesting school that seems to have implemented a system that fits both Gen Z and Gen Alpha. It was co-founded by Mackenzie Price, and it's located in Austin, Texas, and it's known as the Alpha Private School. There, the students learn the core academics for 2 hours a day, and the rest 4 hours are spent developing life skills. The school has 3 aims: to unlock a child's full potential, to learn twice as much in a fraction of the time, and to instill love for school in the child. And they're so confident that they can achieve that they're offering a full refund if any of their aims weren't met by the end of the year. Isn't that crazy?
Literally.
Now, you may be wondering, how do they achieve twice as much in a fraction of the time? Well, here comes the shocking part. Each student gets their own personalized curriculum tailored specifically according to their own abilities and skills, and they're being taught by artificial intelligence. Oh, the horror. Now, I know what you're thinking, because as you can see, many other people are thinking the exact same thing. What about the teachers? What are going to happen to the teachers? Well, not to worry, because the teachers do remain in class, but now they have a new role as guides, not teachers. The students teach themselves, but they obviously still need guidance because no AI can provide the same emotional and intellectual support that a teacher provides. But here's the thing. Each student learns at their own pace, and one teacher can't cater to each student's specific preferences. That's when AI can be used as a tool, not a replacement. The life lessons are also being taught by the guides, so our teachers would have a more efficient role in changing the lives of our students. And believe me, even this system is far from perfect and can still be improved upon through interactive learning modules, such as virtual reality, and more relevant life skills, such as home economics. But the point is, the system must somehow change. We're preparing our youth for this great world, this great challenge ahead of them, using methods developed over centuries ago. Does that sound right to any of you? Imagine you had to wear the same shoes your parents, your grandparents, and your great-grandparents had to wear. Wouldn't those shoes be uncomfortable, filled with flaws and gaps, and may not even be your size? So how are you expected to be happy if you have to walk in the same uncomfortable shoes every single day?
Yet, when it comes to teenage depression, nobody seems to be blaming the educational system. It's always good old social media. But what if I told you social media ain't the culprit? Let's see. We view social media as this monster that consumes time with no mercy and shows our youth so much fake perfection that leads them to depression. And yes, there's no denying that. It has many, many negative side effects. But whose fault is that? The educational system. Our educational system has become so incredibly boring and unhelpful to the current generation that students easily lose interest. The current generation barely has an attention span of 30-second TikToks. How do you expect us to sit in the class for 40 minutes straight and take in every bit of information without questioning where this information comes from and why it is the way it is? Gen Z and Gen Alpha are creative, expressive, engaging. They want to express their opinions. They want to be heard. But I'm sorry to announce they can't do any of those things with the current educational system. So they go looking for engagement elsewhere, and social media comes to rescue, not in a good way. The point is that our educational system needs to adapt in a way that actually makes students happy to learn and help them find engagement in things more like this, as opposed to whatever this is.
Yeah, let's get that out of here right now.
Yeah, please.
Now, to conclude it all, we now know the literal and scientific definition of happiness. We know what factors affect our happiness and what we can do about them. So, what now? What now? As previously discussed, there are many things we can do to promote happiness amongst our youth, and we must do those things because a happy nation is a productive nation. It's a powerful nation and it's an innovative nation. Yet, the first step we must take is to teach our youth to find happiness within themselves, because you and only you can decide what you control in your life and what controls your life.
us human beings should understand that the sky isn't more beautiful, you have perfect skin. Music doesn't sound more interesting if you have a six-pack. Pizza tastes good regardless of your job title. The best of life exists beyond the things we're encouraged to crave. And external events are neutral. It is us with the power of our minds that give a positive or negative value to the experience.
And I would like to end up with one of the happiest quotes of my childhood from my favorite cartoon. If you look for the light, you can often find it. And if you look for the dark, that's all you'll ever see. And we would like to invite you all to join us and find happiness within ourselves and build it around ourselves.
Thank you for your time.
Any questions?